Good morning, folks. This is Deb Delapiana, and this is your short take. We're actually going to try something different today. We're going to do two short takes, a two-parter here, because this is that important. So the subject today is the continued demonization and vilification of Anthony Fauci. We're going to do this in two parts. Let's talk about where we are with the COVID virus as of today in the United States. We have 101,589,374 cases. This is just the United States, with 1,111,164 deaths. Now, could we have stopped all of those deaths? Absolutely not. But we know that anywhere from 200,000 to 300,000 people did not need to die from this illness. And the reason we are in this position today is because we had this happen under an administration whose sole reason for being was their own political power. And they deliberately, under Donald Trump, misled the public about the dangers of COVID-19. We have a president who admitted to downplaying the virus for his own political gain. He was certainly more than a little bit concerned about his ability to get reelected because his base is a pack of morons who have no respect for public health, and because they were preyed upon by opportunists on the right who made them believe that public health means we take your freedom away. This whole notion of medical freedom is a crock of bullshit. It's a crock of bullshit. Never before in history has public health been so controversial that it would cause this kind of a reaction that resulted in many more deaths than was necessary. And this has been looked at, by the way, by various and sundry committees, and they all came to the same conclusion, that this was grossly mishandled by the Trump administration, who overtly lied to people, going out on public speaking benders in big venues, super spreaders, to tell people that this was going to magically disappear, pumping up hydroxychloroquine as a cure when there was absolutely no scientific evidence, and the science, since they started studying it, proves that it does absolutely nothing. And who helped him along with this? We had Dr. Oz writing him letters, urging him to tout hydroxychloroquine as a cure because he had financial investments, the very things they are accusing Dr. Fauci of with the actual vaccine. None of which is true, by the way, but there is a link between Dr. Oz and his investment in hydroxychloroquine. Another man who was touting hydroxychloroquine is Elon Musk, who is now out there on Twitter continuing to slander Anthony Fauci. I have absolutely no respect for billionaires who bootlick Donald Trump while they blackball a public servant who actually has done more good in this country than most people realize. We're going to talk about that in the second video. We have a president who elevated a group called America's Frontline Doctors, who have never been on the front line of anything. The fact of the matter is that America's Frontline Doctors is a right-wing operation funded by the Tea Party patriots. Its leader, Simone Gold, has lost all of her emergency room access because of her actions at the insurrection. She was caught inside the Capitol and arrested. When she was finally let out of jail, Mo Brooks was there to welcome her as a hero, a woman who has actually not done anything during the COVID pandemic. While Donald Trump was vilifying Anthony Fauci, making the CDC change their reports, stymieing the president's commission on COVID, not allowing them to release certain information. He was touting a woman named Stella Emanuel, a member of America's Frontline Doctors, a woman who has credentials from Nigeria. Is she a doctor? Yes. She's a doctor who claims to have cured hundreds of people with hydroxychloroquine, but can't produce any of that evidence. You know, evidence does matter in this shit. I know the right wing has no respect for evidence, but it does matter. By the way, she has a church in the same strip mall where she doctors. And there she preaches that demons come in the middle of the night and have sex with gay people. This is a woman that Donald Trump elevated as he was slamming Anthony Fauci, a man with actual skill, knowledge, a man who is well-versed in infectious disease and its transmission. Just putting Mike Pence in charge of the COVID response was a mistake. A man who would pray it away as opposed to doctoring it away. And then Donald Trump created Operation Warp Speed and touted that about how he gave all of this money quickly for the development of the the development of the vaccine. A man who was touting all of that, but had no plan to dispense any of that vaccine to the American public. A man who tried, literally, if you've read the book Peril by Bob Woodward, to stop them from testing this so they could get it to market quicker, while they were literally telling the American public that it wasn't real. The man and his minions have created such a public health menace in this country that we are now looking at the polio cases rise in certain areas of the country. And I promise you, if they are left to their own devices, the CDC will be dissolved. The World Health Organization will be abandoned. And we will have a crisis in this country that will involve measles, polio, all of the diseases that we've managed to literally eradicate through science, technology, and medicine. That is the role of public health. We had people like Judy Mikovits out there claiming that 50 million people were going to die from the vaccine. That never happened. That has never happened. And where is Judy Mikovits, by the way? Someone ought to put her fucking picture on a milk carton, because she has done her damage, made her money from bogus movies like Plandemic, where she traveled around and talked to people with absolutely no scientific evidence of anything they were saying, and created fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the American public. She's made her money and she's fallen into obscurity where she fucking belongs and can stay. Donald Trump could easily be charged with dereliction of duty for what he did in handling the COVID pandemic in this country, even as he was being let out of the White House when his oxygen levels fell into the 80s. And he was lucky to even make it. Even as he did that, he was lying about the COVID situation in this country. When they get out of the hospital, he lied even more. Because Donald Trump is what we call a pathological liar. There are at least 30,000 documented lies from his administration. 4 years, 30,000 lies. And he continues to lie today. The GOP, if they are put back in power, has every intention of getting rid of any federal public health programs and will return that to the states. And you know what? People travel from state to state to state. It won't take long for disaster to occur. You know, there's an article out there now about how pregnant women are the new, victims of this. They're refusing to get vaccinated, and it is killing them and their children. We're going to be back in a few minutes, and we're going to talk about the man they are vilifying and where this is all going. Talk to you soon. Hi, gang. I'm back again. We're going to continue to talk about Anthony Fauci and his continued abuse by the right wing and the GOP. So, you know what? It's established. It can't be denied at this point. The Trump administration purposely mishandled the COVID-19 response for political gain. It's as simple as that. We don't need to embellish that with big words or, it's a simple process here. Donald Trump cares nothing about the public health. He cares nothing about the American people. And neither does the GOP, by the way. Neither does the GOP. Okay. We have had a number of, Republican governors who have sued to have masks removed in school. Okay. We've been through all of this through this entire thing, and they have put the public health at risk in this country. And this was all started and led by Donald Trump, who managed to vilify a man who was actually trying to help the American people and the global population instead of trying to create political capital. So let's talk about Anthony Fauci and who he is. Anthony Fauci, was first appointed by Ronald Reagan, and he has served under both Democratic and Republican administrations with distinction, I might add. During the AIDS epidemic, Anthony Fauci willingly became the face of the government, and as such, he was under attack by the gay community because, by and large, that is the group that was suffering and dying with AIDS at the time. Larry Kramer, in fact, who was a playwright, accused Anthony Fauci of murder because he would not make available experimental drugs that were being developed to combat AIDS. The gay community wanted to live, and they were willing to become, test vehicles for the stuff that was being developed. But as we know, people insist now in COVID that it wasn't tested enough. The fact of the matter is it is tested. It's tested rigorously. It was tested rigorously when we were going through this with AIDS. All of these things are tested vigorously, to the point where the gay community was really angry with Anthony Fauci, and he willingly accepted that mantle. But you know what? Unlike people who would ignore those who are angry at them, Anthony Fauci opened the door to those people. He traveled around the country. He met with AIDS patients. He talked to people who had AIDS. And he is the man who went back to the government and said, we need to put the gay and lesbian community at the table because this directly affects them. Eventually, it would affect much more than just that group of people. Anthony Fauci actually became friends with Larry Kramer. And Anthony Fauci's work, because he not only was running NIAID at the time, but he continued to work in research and he continued to treat AIDS patients. And his work in AIDS has enabled that disease to go from being a 100% killer to being a manageable disease. Larry Kramer lived into his 80s as a result of the research that was done by not just Anthony Fauci, but his team. Anthony Fauci did the same thing in the middle of COVID. He put himself front and center, and he has been attacked not only by Donald Trump. Rand Paul has had a fucking field day with him, calling him in front of the Senate to answer questions. He has shown up and answered the questions every time. Rand Paul has accused him of shit that just can't be proven because it's not out there. There is no proof because it isn't happening. But let's talk about Anthony Fauci. He helped to create, with George W. Bush, the Jr., PEPFAR, which is the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS in Africa. In 2005, Anthony Fauci won the National Medal of Science. In 2007, he won the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian award you can win from the government. In 2008, he won the Lasker Award for Public Service for his global AIDS efforts. In 2013, he won the Robert Koch Gold Medallion for accumulated effort in biomedical research. He also won the Prince Mahidol Award from Thailand for his contributions to global public health. In 2016, he won the John Dirks Gardner Canadian Global Health Award. He is the author of 1,300 scientific publications and books, textbooks. He is also the editor of Harrison's Principles of Internal Medicine. Rand Paul and his band of merry morons could only hope to achieve any kind of accolades along those lines. He claims to be a doctor. He is a doctor. He's an ophthalmologist. He has no experience in internal medicine. He has no experience in infectious diseases. What he is a political operative, nothing more. You know what, folks? The GOP is going to destroy public health in the United States if they are returned to power in any fashion. They're going to investigate Anthony Fauci come January. Can't be done in the Senate because they didn't win the Senate, but the House is all geared up to do this. He has absolutely nothing to hide. There is no evidence that he has done any wrong in conducting anything having to do with public health during COVID-19. There is plenty of evidence to show that the GOP has done a lot of shit wrong, from sowing doubt into the American public to actually lying about what this disease actually was. He have caused deaths. Donald Trump could be literally prosecuted for dereliction of duty. And you know what? Many people, many experts have actually stated that. But right now he's going to be prosecuted for so much more than that. Why pile on? Why? Because there are at least 300,000 people dead that didn't need to die through this thing. That's why. I can't tell you just how dangerous the right wing in the GOP remains in spite of the midterms. They wanted to fire Anthony Fauci and they wanted to dissolve the CDC. If they are given just enough power to do that, you will see that what they will do is return public health to the states. And if that happens, we will have a host of states in this country, most of them below the Mason-Dixon line and out there in the Midwest, who will forsake public health. And you know something? It'd be okay if they just stayed in their states, but that's not the way the world works. The reason we had COVID to begin with was because of travel. That will not stop. We will see a resurgence of measles, mumps, rubella, polio. We're already testing the waters in certain states for recurrences of polio because people are not only afraid of getting the COVID vaccine, but they're afraid of getting any vaccine. We have pregnant women who refuse to get the COVID vaccine because of the lies they've been told. And you know what? It's been established that pregnant women who get COVID put their children at risk because it's carried in the placenta. Their children, you know what, could end up with brain damage. Many pregnant women have died, and so have their unborn children. Some of these women now won't even get flu shots, even though testing and science proves that they're safe. This article is not an old article, by the way. It just came out 2 or 3 days ago. In the YouTube video, and we have linked our YouTube channel now to our TikTok account. In the YouTube video, you can see all of the evidence for everything I'm saying here. So I would advise you and urge you to go look at that channel. We'll be back tomorrow with a new video. This will not be the subject, but you know what? This is important and people need to pay attention. I'll talk to you all later.